Good morning. Can everyone hear me? Good morning. This is Keisha Wyford with Family Solutions, provider of the COPE class live webinar today. Please let me know when you can hear me just by saying in the chat box, I hear you. Thank you. Hello? Everyone? Okay. I just need to make sure. Can you hear me? I am speaking. Can you hear me? Everyone who's in the room, can you hear me? Let's try again. Can everyone hear me? Refresh your page. Can you hear me? Okay, Anna, yay, you can hear me. Anna can hear me. Can anyone else hear me? Okay. Okay, Anna can hear me. I'm not sure if I'm saying it correctly. No, Noi or Noe can hear me. I apologize if I said your name incorrectly. Okay, fantastic. So let me go over a couple of things. We have a couple of people. I'm only seeing 2 people right now. I'm not sure about the other 2 people that are supposed to take the class. But let me just go over a couple of things. There is a delay from when I speak and when you hear. Unfortunately. So I just want to let you know that there will be times that I pause to make sure that you are answering the questions, because this is an interactive webinar. In this webinar, I will ask you questions, you will respond, and I will know that you are present and that you are participating. That is part of this process. The same thing, the live webinar is the same as if you are taking the live class in person. So it is the same type of interactive process. It gives you the opportunity to ask questions in the chat room. I will be speaking, but you won't see my face. You will only see the slides, because I think that that's probably most important, is for you to, follow along and be able to see the slides. I will show you some video. I will ask you questions. You will ask me questions, and we will have a pretty good time this afternoon. There's one other person that is supposed to show up. So I'm just going to wait about 2 more minutes to see if he can he can participate. If not, we're just going to have 3 people. So this is a nice opportunity where you're going to have me all to yourself, pretty much. And so I look forward to our afternoon together. So while I wait for this gentleman to contact us to see if he will come to the webinar, see if he will be able to log in with us. While I wait for him to log in with us, ask me any questions that you might have that, if you have any burning questions, this is the time to ask them. Anybody have any burning questions that they want to ask? No? All right, let's get started. There are going to be 3 code words that I provide for you today. I will not repeat them. I'm only typing in the beginning of the webinar. I will not be typing more than likely a lot during the webinar. So it's very important that you are present and that you're paying attention. I'm also going to, so let me just let you know this. I will give me your burning questions, put them in the chat box. And as I go through, I will see how I can answer your questions. Anything that I can't answer, I will, I can send you an email, or I can point you in the right direction, if that is helpful. So a little bit about myself. My name, again, is Keisha Wyford. I am a marriage and family therapist, a licensed marriage and family therapist. I practice in Summerlin in private practice. I'm a relationship coach, and I specialize in healthy relationships. It took me a long time to actually say that sentence. I specialize in healthy relationships, from before marriage or before coupling to dating, to during the marriage or relationship, and after a marriage, during a divorce. I also specialize in the relationships between children and parents, and adult children and parents, and I work with everything in between. I am passionate about relationships. I've been blessed with my own great relationships, and I've studied relationships, and it is the thing that I find myself reading in my spare time about relationships. So it is definitely, I recognize now, is my calling. And I love being able to share the information that I know with people who are also interested, excited, worried, or concerned about their own relationships. So today I am serving as a presenter for the COPE class, helping parents help their children through the transition of divorce. And most people do not want to take this class. And even one person has already asked the question about how does this pertain to them? How does this, how is it relevant for their lives? And a lot of people will find that they are resistant to taking a class like this initially, but what we find is about 85 to 95% of the people who go through this class really get some value out of it. And we keep continuing and striving for people to get something out of this particular class. Why? Because children really deserve for their parents to be on the same page, to have the same type of information, to work on making all relationships better, and to help them with um, relationships as they get older. So I would like to take a moment to answer Amy's question, because this is not the first time I have had the question asked of me. One of the parents of my children are not present. They have not been present for a while, or they haven't been present for a short while, whatever the case might be. The reality is that we are modeling for our children healthy relationships. And the reason that the court has requested that parents take this class, it's mandated, because typically we wouldn't spend our afternoons this way. A lot of times we are, doing our best work, but sometimes we need a little tweaking. And there are parents who are absolutely doing the best that they can do and are doing a great job at parenting. And there are some which we have to catch through this class. Is like a safety net, if you will, where we tell everybody, no matter what your situation is, no matter what the circumstances are between the co-parents, if we can get everybody through the safety net, the few that don't need a little tweaking, or the few that do need a little tweaking, will get what they need. And those who did not need any tweaking, there's usually some nugget that they can get from a class about relationships and helping their children and helping with parenting, that they can utilize at some point in their lives, in their parenting. So my hope is that Amy and the rest of the folks that are in this webinar with us will get something out of this particular program. So enough about me. And if you have any more questions for me, please feel free to ask me. I'm also going to give you my email address, and you are welcome to email me and ask me any questions that you might have at a later date. I am a licensed therapist, and the work that I do with clients it's definitely confidential. But in a situation like this, when I teach the class live or I teach the live webinar, this class is not confidential. So therefore, if you have personal questions, please take the time to send me a personal message. If you have general questions, please take the time now, since the class is so small today, to ask those questions. I welcome any questions that you might have. So I am going to ask you to do the same things that I ask the live class to do. Really take this time to dedicate it to your children. You know, we are so busy, and I know you have the capacity and the ability to multitask, but please take the time to get rid of any outside distractions. My phone is on silent. I ask that you put your phones on silent. Turn off your TV. Make sure that your children are not in the room with you. That you just focus on the information that we're going to share today. The seminar is 3 hours. Sometimes it's 3 hours and 15 minutes. But please keep in mind that because of this is not a perfect system, the webinar, unfortunately, is not a perfect system because the internet is not a perfect place. So there are going to be times that things get a little, you might need to refresh, or you might get booted out. Just log back in. But most often, I would rather you not log out and log back in. I would rather you just refresh your page. That is the best way to get back on track with the webinar. Please do not leave the webinar. I am going to give you 3 code words, and I do not repeat the words. So you have to have these words in order to get your certificate. You will be asked for these 3 words when you complete your test and survey. Please keep in mind that the test is not challenging. It just requires that you are participating in listening. And so keep in mind that those certificates are mailed out 24 hours after we've received your test and your survey. So with that being said, if you do it today, it should be mailed out on Monday. It will not be mailed out today. If you do it anytime this weekend, actually, if we can get it by Monday morning, typically we can get it out by Monday. If you get it to us Monday, more than likely it will be mailed on Tuesday. So just be aware of that. So over 1 million parents have successfully completed this program. This program has been around in Las Vegas since 1993. It's a long time. I can't believe how long it's been in Vegas. And it was started, the curriculum was written by a nonprofit organization called by the name of Families First in Atlanta, Georgia. And they decided there has been a lot of research up until that point. This was the early 90s, probably late 80s, that there was, how many problems children of divorce were having. And, the thought was, well, what if we educate the parents in our community to let them know what it is that a child goes through when they are going through a divorce situation? Maybe if we can reach parents and let them know, hey, divorce is not really the issue. It is how the 2 of you interact after you decide to divorce. It is knowing what to expect, because all children are going to experience it differently, but there are some things that they have in common. What if we told the parents in our community what it would be like to go through a divorce situation and separation? And it just grew like, just spread like wildfire. The seminar was profiled on many national media outlets. And once that happened, it just spread. And the Cope Divorce Seminar is now a national program operating in 40 states and jurisdictions. And I actually think that's a low number. I also think, I know that there are a lot of other programs that are being utilized. So this program has really been quite effective, and they keep building upon it because more information comes out and children are really doing well. And 85, like I said, 85 to 95% of all participants in the exit surveys rated the program very helpful in assisting them in learning to work with their co-parent. And I'm not here to teach you how to parent. This is parent education, but I am not of the assumption that you guys don't know what to do with your kids. That is not my purpose at all. I am here to reinforce all of the things that you already know. These are the things that you already have in your hip pocket. But when you are dealing with a stressful, emotional situation, a lot of times things get forgotten in that process. And so that is why we are making children the forefront of this program. Now, if you've made arrangements to pick up your certificate before and not have it mailed, then that's perfect. As long as you have made those arrangements, not a problem. Okay, so I also want to mention, not everybody is going through a legal divorce. There are people here who have never been legally married. When we have the live seminar, we use, obviously there's a larger crowd that we are speaking to. Is typically at least 30 people in the classroom. So we like to let everyone know that there are many reasons why you might be coming to a seminar like this. You are divorcing. About 90% of the people in the room are actually going through a legal divorce. You are separating. You have never been married. You were divorced years ago and now you're changing custody, or your timeshare arrangement has changed. You might be a custodial grandparent and need to work on guardianship issues. Whatever the case might be, I will be using the term divorce. However, that is not meant to exclude anyone. It is just because of the majority of people are going through this class because of a legal divorce. But just keep in mind that the reason that we're discussing these particular issues and topics is because there has been a change in parenting. You have come to this class for the reason that there has been a change in parenting. Does that make sense? Okay. So I want to start off with one of the best ways to take care of your children is to take care of yourself. And why do you think we start off with this phrase? One of the best ways to take care of your children is to take care of yourself. How many of you believe that is true? I'm going to pause and let you respond in the chat box. Why do you think that is true? I'm going to wait for your response. Why do you think that is true? One of the best ways to take care of your children is to take care of yourself. Why do you think that is true? One of the best ways to take care of your children is to take. So I've heard from Amy, and so I'd like to hear from the others, just so I can make sure that everyone is present. Amy says, because how can you take care of anyone else if you can't care for yourself? Because if I'm good, they are good. Absolutely. So we are discussing the children, but we have to first start with self, because your children need you and pick up on everything. Thank you, Anna. Absolutely. One of the best ways to take care of your children is to take care of yourself. And I can't stress that enough. If you think about it, everybody has taken, most people, I won't say everybody, but most people have taken commercial airline flights. And if you remember, in the beginning of the flight, you will get that spiel at the beginning of the flight when they ask you to listen to these particular directions. This is what to do in case of an emergency. And one of the things that they say is put the oxygen mask on yourself first before helping anyone else, right? How many of you have heard that? Put the oxygen mask on yourself first before helping anyone else. But what is our natural inclination? What is it that we would, if they didn't remind us to do that, what will we do first? Because I have two children of my own. My son just turned 14 this past Sunday, and I have a daughter who's turning 16 in 3 weeks. It's kind of crazy that they are growing up so quickly. But I tell you, they are they are my lifeline. My kids are just like everything. They are everything. And but I have to remember that, because my natural instinct would be to save my kids because I've lived my life, right? That would be my natural instinct. However, when they were younger, could they really take care of themselves if I wasn't breathing? No, they would perish just like I would perish. And so the same thing applies in this particular situation, in when the family is going through a crisis. And divorce is like a crisis. It's like, even if it's a mutual decision, and as we've had some celebrities say, and I've actually seen an article not too long with the same term, even if it's a conscious uncoupling, it is still a traumatic event, probably one of the first that your children experience. And sometimes for ourselves, it is a traumatic experience, even if you know it is the best thing for your life. So let's talk about, what are some of the things that you are doing currently to take care of yourself? What are you doing to take care of yourself? Because, okay, so it's good that you know, yes, okay, I have to take care of myself, but let's put it into action. Really, truly, what are you personally doing to take care of yourself? Let me know. Okay, Amy. I make sure I have my quiet time so I can focus on my boys. Okay. Working out to release stress, excuse me, Anna. Especially if I'm having a bad moment or day. Okay. Okay, we have one more person. What are you doing to take care of yourself? I'd like to hear from you. Noi? So let's look at, so here's the thing. As a therapist, I can't tell you how many people I've seen in my office, and they will say, yeah, I'm taking care of myself. I go to the gym and I go get my nails done. I go get my hair done. Um, I'll take a walk with my dog. All of those are wonderful activities and very good. Nothing wrong with that. But I want you to think of yourself as an onion. And I always use this as a good description of what I mean by we as humans having layers. If you remember, and like I said, I have children and you guys have children, you've probably seen the first Shrek movie, right? And in that movie, Shrek tells Donkey that he's not just an ogre, he has layers. And I love that line because it's so true. And it's the truth about all of us that we have many layers, and all of our layers need to be taken care of. So make sure that when you're taking care of yourself, you are working through all those different layers. So physically, so that is the walking, the running, the gym, that's the hair, the makeup, the nails, that is, making sure you get dressed in the morning and you feel your best. Emotionally is really, that quiet time, making sure that you're healing on the inside. And mentally, it's, sharpening your saw, which is actually part of the 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, that book by Stephen Covey, which is one of my favorite books of all time. Mentally, one of the 7 habits is to make sure that you sharpen your saw. Always continue to grow and learn. Professionally, maybe you're not doing all the things that you wanted to do while you were in the marriage. Now is your opportunity to blossom and grow professionally. Spiritually, if maybe you're not there where you want to be. Relationally, expanding your relationships, getting back in touch with people that you cared about, or you do care about now. There are so many ways that you can take good care of yourself. And guess who is watching you take good care of yourself? Who's watching you? Oops, I sent that too quickly. Who is watching how you take care of yourself? Tell me, who is watching? Our kids. Absolutely, Amy. And if your kids see you come home, you said that you work in the ER, you come home frustrated because life is frustrating at times. People on the street cut you off, people are rude, you hold the door for them and they don't say thank you. People, our co-parent or our family members or our good friends, they turn on us, they say mean things. Things are going to continually happen to us because that's just how life is. There is a lot of good, mostly good in my opinion, and there are going to be challenges. And so if we come home after having some of those challenges and we slam doors and we go straight to the cabinet and pour a glass of gin or go into the fridge and pour a glass of wine, what is that communicating to our children about taking care of ourselves? Is that the way to take care of ourselves? And my answer to that would be that's an unhealthy way of really being able to take care of ourselves and manage our emotions. So what I would suggest is that we find the best healthy ways to manage all of those different parts of ourselves, all of our layers. Okay, I'm off my soapbox now. As a therapist, it's so important to take care of ourselves. This is one of the main things that we discuss in the work that I do with relationships and couples. We think it's only about the relationship, but really it starts with us. And so that's why I spend quite a bit of time on that segment. But now let's take a look at loss and really paying attention to our internal parts and all the things that we might be feeling and might be thinking. So tell me, what are you as a parent losing through this process? And let me tell you, the faster you are able to respond, you know, the better the pace will be between us. So if you are paying attention and if you are with me on this webinar and really participating, we can move through the material as quickly as we can. There's a lot of material. In some states, this class is 2 days, you know, quite frankly, because there is a lot of material to cover. Obviously, we are not going to take 2 days, but, you know, I condensed it into 3 hours. Well, this Nevada requested that it be condensed to 3 hours to fit everybody's schedule and get everybody on the same, give everybody the same information. So there's a lot of information to share, but we are going to keep it really to the 3 hours. Okay, so what are you as a parent losing? And it's important to take a look at your loss. And sometimes loss is not a negative thing. You know, not all loss is bad. But what are you losing as a parent? So think about it. So Anna says, I'm not sure. Well, as a parent, what are you losing through this process? Noise says time. And that's absolutely true. That is the number one thing that we hear parents communicate about, is that they feel the loss of time with their kids. They really miss spending that kind of time with them. There's also the thought about they feel like they've lost control. I know exactly what happens with my kids when they are in my presence. And let me tell you, the feeling of a loss of control is not just for divorced couples. That is not the only issue that divorced couples have. It is an issue that parents have, even if they're in an intact relationship. Sometimes there is one parent who takes complete control over the children. The other parent wants to have a say, and they don't have a say. So it is not uncommon for parents to feel this way. So something to think about. It's not uncommon for parents to feel like there is a loss of control, or they don't want to give up control. They don't want to give the other parent the opportunity to rise to the occasion and be the parent that they need to be. There's also a feeling of loss of status or identity. You know, I was so-and-so's husband. I was Mrs. Jones, for example. And that meant a lot to her. You know, I've had a lot of clients where they just don't know where they begin. Where the relationship, when the relationship ended, they lost their sense of self. Who are they now? They were the stay-at-home mom, or the dad was, you know, a family man. This is what I was all about my family. And now I don't have the opportunity to do that all of the time. I really don't know what I'm going to do with my life. There's a feeling, a loss of companionship. There's a loss of lifestyle. I used to live a certain way, very comfortably, actually. And now I don't feel like I can live that comfortably anymore. You know, when you get married, you have a dream about your future, what your expectations are, and there's a loss of the dream. Sometimes it's not so much sadness of the loss of the person, but when you got married, you thought, this is going to be for a lifetime, or I thought that I could, you know, really change this person, or this person, because of my love, would be willing to change for me. Lots of different thought process that might happen, but the fact remains that there is a great deal of loss that a person would feel, even if it's the best decision for their lives. And sometimes it's just the loss of a headache, quite frankly, huh? So let's talk about, what is your child losing? And I want you to think about, if your children were in the room and they had the opportunity to say whatever they want without there being any consequences, what do you think they would say? And remember, perception is key. So if your children were here and they can say whatever they wanted, and it was based off of their perceptions, not your reality, what do you think your children would say? I'm waiting to hear from you guys. Thank you. Okay, so the family, the good times together. So it's interesting. Okay, so time with dad because he's relocating. Thank you for sharing. So children, even if they are not close to to the other parent, they will feel a sense of loss as time goes on, because they are going to be around others who have different types of experiences than they do. And so their sense of loss and interest in family structures are going to be there. But there are things that children do feel like they're losing. Daily contact with a parent, just like you're mentioning, Anna, if a parent is living at a distance, there is going to be a loss of the everyday. And even if they only saw their parent 5 minutes out of the day, it was a moment that mattered. And I love all parents to recognize it is not the quantity of time, but it is the quality. And even if it was 5 minutes where they just put their hand on the child's head, it was a moment that mattered. I'm actually going to write that down because I like that. Because a lot of times it's hard for one parent to see the contribution of another parent. So they have the loss of the daily contact. They have the loss of a family as they knew it. There might be a loss of lifestyle because children also are aware of lifestyle and how they're, comfortably they lived. There might be a loss of their vision for the future, especially if you have older children. They are concerned about their future and what's going to happen now. They are concerned about money. They feel a loss of friends, their home. They feel a loss of the parent, especially if they're younger. So there's a lot of loss that a child might feel. So let's take a look at the family as a whole. What is the family losing? And I love these pictures. These because I had such a really close relationship with both sides of my family and the extended family. My parents had a lot of friends, and I had several godmothers and godfathers, and my grandparents. Up until the age 9, I had all 4 of them. My grandfather passed, but then I had the other 3 for many, many, many years until adulthood. So they really played a huge role in my growing up. And so that was awesome for me, having that. And so children, it takes a village. Has anyone ever heard that, not that phrase, but that, gosh, I can't think of the word. The proverb, the African proverb, it takes a village to raise a child. And I believe that to be true. Everyone, the beauty of having family, the beauty of having extended family is that everyone has the opportunity to breathe life into your children and to contribute to their growth. They also have the ability to take away. But if we are all working in the same vein of helping our children and doing things in a healthy way, they have a great contribution to the lives of your children. So quality time is one of the things that, yes, extended family feel like they are losing when the parents go through a divorce. They also feel the loss of tradition, and they feel the loss of holidays and rituals and all of the things that go. We're coming into a high traditional season of holidays where people get together and they share life together. So it's a nice time to keep those things alive for children. that they continue to have the relationships that they deserve to have with the extended family. If you think about it, you had everybody rally around you for the marriage, for their baby showers, for their christenings, if that's, something that you guys do. I know that's something that we did for our children. And we have big celebrations around what's happening with the couple and then with the children. And we invite all of these people to contribute. And then when there is a divorce, we shut people out, we cut them off. And that's what we want to prevent. We do not want to not have, for children to have that loss and for the family to have that loss. So keep inviting them back into your life, even if they do things that you do not like. There are loyalty binds that families have because they don't know what to do. They don't know how to react or respond or deal with the new life choices and situations. So just keep inviting them back into the fold so that children have the opportunity to have those relationships. So we talk about loss for a reason, so that we can introduce the grieving process. It is very much a parallel to the grieving that you feel when you lost a significant person in your life. Divorce is the loss of a lifestyle, a dream, hopes. It's the death of a relationship. And it has to be the death of a relationship, because we're going to take the emotionality, take all of the things that didn't work in this relationship and realign as co-parents. And the reason we have to realign is because we have children. If you didn't have children, you can go your separate ways and say goodbye and there'll be no problem. But because you have children, then it is in everyone's best interest that you realign in a healthy way. So we're going to talk about the grieving process now, but I'd like to give you one of your first code words now. Everybody still with me? First code word, generous. Please let me know that you've received it. First code word, generous. Please let me know that you received it. Write the word generous in the chat box. Okay, got it, got it, got it, got it, got it, got it. Okay, beautiful. Loss causes people to experience some very difficult emotions. It can be very hard to pull yourself out of the intense sadness or anger and see what is going on with your children. Thank you, Noe, for saying generous. Very good. Thank you. Thank you. So let's take a look at the grieving process. I want you to remember a couple of things. The grieving process is not linear, which it was once thought to be, where you would start at denial and end at acceptance. The grieving process is actually cyclical, like you see here. Some people are at acceptance today. They've decided a long time ago in the marriage that they no longer wanted to be a part of the marriage, right? And they were in a good place. They went through their grieving in the marriage. That happens quite a bit. So the grieving process started for them a while ago. Now, everybody who's experiencing this divorce, you, the other parent, your co-parent, your children, your extended family, all are at different points of the grieving process. And everybody's grieving is going to look and feel differently. Some people are going to have a harder time than others based on many different factors. And especially if they feel that they were sideswiped. That is one of the hardest things for parents to get over or to deal with. Even if you've warned them throughout the marriage, look, things are not working, and I need you to make these changes. They're not thinking, oh, that person is really going to file for divorce. They're really going to leave. So denial is a huge thing, and it is part of the grieving process, and everybody goes through it. So here it was, this process was identified, not to, she didn't create it, because the feelings have always been there, but she identified the different stages. She actually paid attention to what was happening when people were going through the death of a loved one. And she wrote the groundbreaking book called On Death and Dying. And her name was Dr. Kubler-Ross. She explored loss and the mourning process. And we're forever grateful for that, because now once you understand certain things, now you can really do things differently, right? So the ground rules when looking at these stages is there is no set amount of time for each stage. Everyone goes at their own pace. You may go through a stage, move on to another stage, and then go back to a previous stage. So you might be at acceptance, then you go to court, and you're pissed off, and you're right back at anger, where you thought that you really had worked through. You may get stuck in a stage and may need some assistance getting unstuck. And typically we find that everybody goes through these stages. They might not go through all of the stages, but they go through a couple of them. And they might have gone through it in the marriage, not necessarily right at this moment. And it might not have been stronger than others. Some might really have a hard time with anger. Some people might have a hard time with depression. Some people might have a hard time with denial. But some people, it's normal for you to go through any one of these stages. I want you to feel your feelings and move on. That is the best solution for all emotional situations that you come in contact with. If you're feeling sad, cry, deal with it. Deal with whatever emotional state that you are in. Understand it, figure it out, figure out what's happening with the people around you. But what becomes detrimental is if you're stuck in it, if you're always angry, if you always find yourself every time your co-parent's name is mentioned, you cringe. That is a sign that you're stuck. You are stuck in an emotional state where you do not have control over your emotions. And it's a negative feeling that comes across you. It's not a place of peace. And acceptance feels like peace. It feels like, I could do this. I'm okay. Even though I hurt at times, there are moments that are really challenging. I can see a future. I feel good about my life. I feel good about my future. I feel good about my relationships. I can keep working on my relationship with my co-parent. It might be challenging. They might not hear me, but I can still keep trying. And that is a better place to be than a place where I don't care what they say, what they do, and I'm done. I'm done. And you don't interact, and you don't deal, and you don't focus, and you don't try and change things. That is a state of stuck. And it is important to find healthy ways to cope during these stages. And that is when we go back to, how do you take care of yourself? All the different layers of yourself. So denial, I'm going to go through quickly what each stage is. Denial for parents is, this really isn't happening to me. I really cannot believe that this is happening to me. You're thinking things are going to get back to normal. They're going to change. We're going to get back together. Those are some of the things, that's some of the thought process. For children, reality is just too painful for them. They believe that, again, this is not happening. It is that thought, I can't deal with it. I'm not going to really think about it. This is really not happening. They're going to get back together. They always do, that kind of thing. Anger, for parents, they feel angry about broken promises. They feel angry about the situation, something that they can't control or work through. They feel angry that there are going to be difficulties and challenges that lay ahead, and they don't really want to deal with it, and they don't feel like they should, and they feel like this was done to them, and that the other parent brought this all on them, and they're very resentful, and they are upset and angry about it. Children feel angry about having to experience pain. They don't want to feel these negative feelings. They wish that their parents have found another solution to this particular issue. They feel like their parents have failed them in some way. They become angry that they could not resolve their problems and their issues. How could you tell, especially teenagers? I've heard this before. How could you tell me what to do? Or how can you give me advice and you can't even take care of your own lives? They lose trust in their environment, right? One of the indicators of children having a challenging time is that you notice that they stop trusting their parents in their decision making. And we don't want that. Children need to believe in us in order to feel connected to us, in order to do the things that they need to do to grow up in a healthy way. Children express their anger by arguing or fighting with their siblings, with their friends, with us. You might see some self-destructive behaviors. You might see them rejecting authority. You might see increased limit testing or breaking the rules. I want you to know that children are not going to necessarily say, hey, I feel resentful, I feel angry, I am having these particular issues, even if you ask them directly. I had one little boy in my office a couple of weeks ago, and the parents have recently announced that they are getting a divorce. Mom is already dating, and dad is in a state of depression. And he told me he is 13. Yes, he's 13 years old. He just turned 13. And he told me, I asked him, well, have you expressed how you feel to your parents? And he said, no, what's the point? They're either going to get upset with me or tell me that it doesn't matter how I feel. And that's not just for this young man. I have heard it countless times that children do not feel like they have a voice and that their opinion on what's happening really matters. So what do? They keep quiet. Just like us, they can keep going. They are very resilient. They can keep going. Doesn't mean that emotionally, internally, their internal parts are not impacted and affected. Any questions so far? So bargaining is figuring if I can do something different, whatever that might be, in order to change the situation. I want to try. I'm going to ask. So whether that's asking your soon-to-be ex-spouse, or asking yourself, or asking your higher power, your God, asking God, please help me to get out of this situation. I'll do whatever it takes to get out of this situation. Then that's what they will do. And children who get stuck in the bargaining stage are continuing to feel responsible for the divorce. So if your children are saying to you something similar to, Mom, Dad, if I was to clean my room, or if I was to, be quiet, or if I was to do whatever, would you get back together? If they are thinking that they can do something differently in order for you guys to be back together, they've taken a great deal of responsibility of the divorce on themselves, which is normal. One of the last things that we talk about and argue about with our soon-to-be ex-spouse are our children. This is why they feel responsible for what is happening. So keep that in mind. Excuse me, I have a very dry throat, so just in case, I have a mint in my mouth just to help out with that. So if I sound a little garbly, I apologize, and I'll try to enunciate as much as possible. So depression is a big deal. Lately, because of all of the crazy things that are happening in the world, it's important to look at people's mental health and what's happening with them mentally. Depression is part of that. And depression is problematic, not sadness, because everyone is going to feel sad. But depression is when you are in a state of being that doesn't allow you to live, and you can either implode or explode. And it can be a dangerous place for you to be, or your children to be, or anyone else to be. We've seen people who have exploded on the world, exploded on populations and people, and it's a very dangerous situation. So let's look at general signs of divorce. When you're withdrawn from family or friends, one of the things to look for in yourself or with your children are behavioral extremes. Let me put that down. It's not a code word, but I want you to remember the term. It's called behavioral extremes. Everybody pay attention to your kids and any behavior changes and the extremes that might take place. Keep in mind, children will experience the separation and divorce of their parents well past the 6 months, year, 2 years it takes to go through this whole process. Okay, so it's something to keep in mind. If your children are experiencing any of those behavioral extremes, for example, if your son, who has always been very compliant as a child, suddenly becomes completely uncompliant and doesn't care and doesn't do their homework and doesn't hang out with family and friends, that's a behavioral extreme. That's a big difference than how they were previously, right? So general signs of depression are you're withdrawn from family and friends. You don't care about things that used to be important to you. You eat too much or eat too little. You're sleeping all of the time or awake during the night. You cry easily. You don't care about your appearance, and you're very irritable. Adult signs of depression are increased forgetfulness, difficulty moving or getting work done, short-tempered with your children. Children's signs of depression: difficulty concentrating. If you have school-age children, this is a really good way to understand what's happening with them, is what's happening with them in school. Difficulty concentrating, dropping grades, aggressive behavior towards their friends and siblings and to their parents. When children realize that divorce is really going to happen, they will feel very sad. Feeling depressed about divorce is very normal. Staying depressed about divorce for an extended period of time is not okay. And for acceptance, this is a quote from Oprah Magazine. It's about looking forward to the future. In the ending of a committed relationship, grieving is a gradual process of extracting the I from the disappearing we. I like how they said that. So you're thinking less about the past and the divorce, and you're more focused on the present and your new interests. It's like driving. You are looking out of the windshield of life rather than the rear view mirror. And for children, it's a renewed focus on the present and the future and the ability to talk about the past. Now, this part is important. When they can talk about their parents, both parents, without feeling like they're going to hurt the other parent or have a negative reaction, they feel good about their lives with their parent and they feel comfortable speaking about them without it being a problem. That's a place of acceptance for them. Any questions on that? I want to read to you a journal entry by a child. You know what? Before I read the journal entry, I'm going to let you watch a video. Is that okay? Okay. So how well you handle the divorce transition and your anger will affect your children far more than the divorce itself. So let's see a video on anger. All right, I'm going to start this video over. Because I want to turn up the volume. I think I need to turn up my volume in order for you to hear it. So I'm going to replay the video. So give me a second. Go back to the beginning. All right, let's start this again. You ready? Let's go.
I'll call it. As a matter of fact, lose my number.
I am sick and tired of your mess.
Go ahead. Walk out.
And you bringing that slut around my child.
You will never see Jessica again.
I am going to disconnect this phone. You will not hear from me or my kids again.
I hate you. And I'm going to make sure that your son hates you. David and me will be away from you forever. Do you hear me? Forever.
We are not married anymore. I don't have to tell you what I'm doing. I don't have to tell you where I'm going or what I'm doing with my
All
kids.
I care about is my son. Not a single dollar of child support. Go ahead, walk out.
I don't need you. I've never needed you.
Do you hear me? This is not
His
over.
mother.
I could care less about you.
Away and leave us alone. I don't care what you do.
But you will never see your son again.
So what do you think about that? And I'm going to answer your question, Anna, in a second. But what do you think about that type of anger? Were you able to see the video well? What do you think of that type of anger? That is what is most damaging to children. Divorce is hard, don't get me wrong. Even in the best of circumstances, when you have, again, like I mentioned, that conscious uncoupling, where you do everything by the book, when you really, really are very careful about how you communicate with the children and how you provide them with the information they need. It is still a very difficult challenge for them. However, the most important thing is to shield them from anger and hostility, because that is what's going to be most damaging to children. Wouldn't you think? So having that type of anger and having your children exposed to that type of anger is detrimental. And if you possess that type of anger, and I'm not saying that you do, but I have to make the mention of that, that means that you're grieving. That means that you are part of the grieving process right now, which is normal, but you gotta get out of it. You gotta figure out how to make things better for yourself and better for your children, because they are the ones who are going to be the beneficiaries of those types of emotions. So I want to answer Anna's question. So if the father suffers from depression, and it doesn't have to be the father, it can be anyone, any parent who suffers from depression, whether you're in a divorce or whether you are in an intact relationship. If you are in a state of depression, the reality is, and you answer this for me, do you think you can parent well? I don't know if any of you have experienced extreme sadness or depression when you've been in a state of being, like we discussed, of behavioral extremes, when the things that you used to like, you don't like anymore, and life just does not feel the same anymore. Can you truly parent? Children will be affected by parents who have not healed, who are not dealing with their mental health issues. Depression is normal, but if you are stuck in it, it can be damaging. So keep encouraging your other parent to really find a way to figure it out, to fix the situation, seek help. Sometimes you have to seek medication, because more often than not, your children are watching and they're paying attention, and they need you. They need you to be fully present. They need you to be well, physically and mentally. So I hope that's helpful, Anna. If you have any additional questions, let me know. That's a good point about coping skills. So let's take a look at another video. And this is the voice of the child of divorce. And I want you to hear him. He has a lot of things to say that are really important. Let's take a look.
Dear Mom and Dad, I know that you are hurting. I'm hurting too. I feel and feed off your tension, fear, and shock. Although I am young and cannot express verbally what is happening in our lives, I'm still feeling the impact. My heart is broken every time I have to give up a parent. My sense of security is lost. Please don't assume that I am resilient. Please don't assume that my life will be exactly as it was, and that I will continue to feel the same love from both of you. I'm a human being just like you. My needs are just like yours. I need love, attention, nurturing, stability, consistency, affection, understanding, patience, and mostly to be wanted. When you fight over me or put me in the middle of your argument, you are sending me the message that winning with each other is more important than my life. I am learning from you that it is better to be right than to be loved. You are teaching me that I came from a person who is unlovable and wrong, and that I am somehow wrong too. When you confide your hurt in my heart, you are storing up adult pain and robbing me of my childhood. You are taking away my belief that love is unconditional and replacing it with a message that tells me to become hard and not to love because I will get hurt and not be able to recover. You may not understand this today, and I am so small that you are not thinking about my future, but you are putting me at a greater risk of getting a divorce myself. At times, you are risking my safety to fill a void in your heart. My safety is your job. Without you and your protection, I am unshielded from the world. This will manifest in irrational fears for me, because I will stay in a state of fight or flight for most of my life. Someday, this initial shock will wear off, but how you choose to parent me through this crisis will never wear off. I will either feel your sense of selflessness, support, protection, or I'll have a scar on my heart with a message that reads, "Good things happen to good people. I must be bad." Thoughtfully, the child of divorce.
So I would love to hear you every time we watch a video. First, let me know if the video, if you understood it, if you heard it, if it was clear. That's always important. We like that feedback. But also reaction to what you thought about it. What do you think about the child of divorce? He brings up a lot of good points. Tell me your thoughts as I go on. I'd like to hear you in the chat box. Okay, so the reaction to divorce. They might display a wide range of emotions. Children will experience a wide range of emotions, and every child is different. But there are some things that, are common. They express pain and anger differently at different ages, and they may turn their anger and pain inward and withdraw, or they may turn their anger and pain outward and misbehave. And these are the things that you might see happen. Here are some questions that they might ask. Where will I live? Where will dad or mom live? They're very curious. They want to know. And so you got to be careful about that. Age appropriate truth. What should we be telling our children? How should they receive the information? And that is something that parents work on together. That is not the best solution. I'll put it this way. Is not the best solution to make it a unilateral decision. The best solution is to be able to sit them down together and communicate about these things. And you might start off with one conversation and have a couple of different conversations over a period of time. And that is really helpful to children, for them to hear from both parents at the same time. That's reassuring, knowing that both of their parents are going to be with them, even if it's uncomfortable for the parents. Will there be enough money for us? Yes, kids worry about funds. They worry about money. They worry about if they're going to be taken care of. And if you complain about money, then you're going to see that as well. If one parent left, will the other leave too? These are questions, whether they verbalize it or not. I mean, we have a hard time verbalizing everything that we're thinking and feeling, right? So I want you to think that our children have the same types of experiences. They have lots and lots of thoughts that are not actually verbalized. So you want to reassure them, and sometimes you got to be ahead of the game. These are the things that you bring up in your conversations so that you can have discussion about it on an ongoing basis, even if they don't bring it up. Just because they don't bring it up doesn't mean that they're not thinking about it. So will my parent who left me stop loving me? Do I have to stop loving him or her? Children will have that thought process as well because they want to stay aligned with one parent over the other. If they feel closer to another parent, or if they feel that one parent has been done wrong, they're going to want to align with one parent over the other, and you have to continually give them permission to love both parents freely. That's a gift. Did I do something to cause this? And that is another question that children have internally, where they are taking responsibility for the adult decisions. So let me tell you a little bit about the young man who is 13 that I am seeing. I started seeing him almost a year before the parents decided to divorce. And when the parents decided to divorce, this child felt like, oh, maybe it was me, all the stress that I've been putting them through because I haven't been listening, and because they had to come to counseling because of me. Maybe that's why they are getting a divorce. And it just broke my heart because that is not why they're getting a divorce. But when there have been changes in the relationship, and it just so happens to coincide with counseling, I had to help reassure him that these things weren't happening. Did he ask his parents that? No. But he did open up to me about that. That's why counseling is so incredibly powerful. Not because we're magical. It's because we have learned the skill of listening for understanding. So let's take a look at some drawings by some children who have been asked the question, what does divorce feel like for you? And so I'm going to ask you not to be art therapist, but you can play it for a little while. Art and creative outlets are a great way for us to communicate and to understand what's happening with children of all ages, even adults, because it is hard to peel away the layers and really get to the root of what we're feeling and why. So art is a great way of being able to reach a child. And so let's take a look at 3 drawings. This is the first one. And we think this is a 6-year-old girl because of the inventive spelling. So it was done many years ago, but still applies to this day. What do you think Kathy is feeling? Oops, I skipped a slide. I'm going to go back. Sorry about that. What is Kathy feeling? Tell me what you think Kathy is feeling. I'm going to take a pause and wait to hear back from you. Okay, there's split, there's sadness. Okay, absolutely. What is the big theme that you see in this particular picture? Stuck in the middle. Absolutely. Heartbroken. Wouldn't you say? Heartbroken. Okay, so Kath, those are good. Let's move on. Let's look at this next picture. What do you think this child is feeling? Now, I'm not sure if anyone here in the room is a child of divorce, but I am a child of divorce. And I felt this way. Choices, choices, choices. I'm confused. One way, one way, one way. I grew up in New York City, Brooklyn, New York, and my parents are individually really great people, not great as a couple, not great married, not great divorced. I wish they had a class like this when I was younger. And I was 9 years old when my parents they separated many times between the time I was born and the time that they actually divorced. And so I was taken to see a mediator. I think it was a mediator because, quite frankly, nobody explained anything to me. I was picked up from school and went to the city, which is Manhattan. We called it the city. Went from Brooklyn to Manhattan and was asked the question, who do you want to live with? And at 9, by myself, with a stranger, I had to communicate what it is that I wanted to do. And so I can totally relate to this child. And the decision that I made at that time affected me for the rest of my life. It impacted the relationship I had with my father, and it has impacted generations because my children, my relationship with my dad was never the same. And my children don't have the type of relationship with my father as I had with my grandfathers. Because my father was always very resentful of my mother especially, and myself for making the decision to live with my mother. Now I know as an adult why I made that decision. That decision wasn't made out of because I loved one parent over the other. That decision was made because I was more comfortable in one home over another home, which is very common. My cat lived with my mother. My new bed was in my mother's home. When I went to stay with my dad, I didn't know the benefits of staying with my dad, but I knew that he lived in a 1-bedroom apartment, and my bedroom wasn't a bedroom, it was the living room. It was a pull-out couch. And for me, that was uncomfortable. So when a child feels like they have to make all the decisions and the parents are smaller than the child, that is a very hard place to be. And like you said, Anna, overwhelmed. That is unhealthy for children to be put in that position to make adult decisions, because children only see to the tip of their nose. That's the beauty of being a child. You don't have to see the whole world for what it is because you are a child. That's why you have parents who can do that. So think about that next time you're putting your children in that type of position. And even if you do not have an extreme circumstance like I was in, I feel like that was an extreme circumstance at 9 to be asked that question and then that be it. And then life changing completely for everybody who's involved. But perception is key. So think about your children perceiving that they might be responsible for what's happening in the adult relationship. Because even if it's not their reality, their perception is 90% of what they believe. So think about that. Last picture. Divorce feels like 1,000 knives stabbing me all over my body. Ouch, ouch, ouch. Now, for this child, what do you think that they need? Do you think that they need assistance? Would they benefit from some help? Because if you think about it, this child has knives at the top of their head and the bottom of their feet. Does this child need some assistance? What do you think is happening with this child? Just a lot of pain all over. I agree. I would, if this was my child, I would get them some help. Because sometimes parents are not always the best solution. And one of the things that I encourage parents to do, I'm not going to say that. So let me recant that, because I want to make sure that I'm clear on that. Sometimes parents are not the only solution. How about that? Parents are not the only solution. Sometimes there are people in our children's lives that we've placed in their lives, which is beautiful, that really, they have a great relationship with, that they listen to, that they trust. I always like for children to have a list of at least 2 to 3 people that parents approve of, that they feel if they need to talk to someone, if you can't talk to me, honey. And for my daughter and my son, that's definitely their godparents. Both of my good friends from 4th grade and from middle school. I have 2 friends that are still my friends to this day, who are also my children's godparents. And they are the ones that I have given permission for them to talk with them. And they don't have to tell me unless, of course, it's, a life or death situation. And that they can, just confide in without any problems from me. And I love when parents can give that to their children. So I would suggest that parents do that. And I also want to suggest that, 1,000 knives stabbing you all over your body is a lot. But one parent can be take a huge chunk of that out. How? They can do that by doing their best parenting. Even if the other parent is not doing the work, who is still stuck in their grieving, then it doesn't mean that one parent can't continue to do their best parenting and their best co-parenting. Because one parent can take out 500 knives. And isn't it better? I hate to say it that way, but isn't it better to be able to take 500 knives out of what's happening with your child? I think so. So think about that. Any questions on that? So there's help for children at any age. Reassure your children of many things, but especially that the divorce is not their fault. Don't talk negatively to the other parent in front of your children. Don't talk negatively about the other parent. Don't make faces. Don't roll your eyes every time they mention them. There's a lot of things that you can do to help them, help your children not be caught in the middle. Because even the slightest tone change and body language can really impact how your children feel about the other parent. So you want to be as neutral as possible. Children will figure out stuff about the other parent without help from you. That's their job to figure out that relationship. That's on them. You help them with everything else, but their relationship with the other parent is their own. So really help them with that. Don't argue in front of the other children. And make special efforts to spend individual time with all of your children. If you have more than one child, this is the time to figure out, when you are going through this process, what timeshare arrangement would really work and benefit for them, would be a benefit for them. If we can include individual time with our children, wouldn't they be better off? Something to think about. There are a number of factors that influence a child's adjustment to divorce. These are the things that we cannot change. We can't change our children's age. We can't change their gender. Male children typically have a harder time initially than female children. We can't change their temperament. I always say I knew a lot about my kids before they were even born. And, my daughter has been a firecracker since she was in utero. She was pushing and moving and grooving, and she's been like that ever since, in a lot of circumstances. Not in all circumstances, but in a lot. So for every grade change, when she went to kindergarten, when she went to middle school, high school, she's just like, bye, mommy. I'm okay. No problem. Preschool, babysitter. She was always able to transition very well from one situation to another situation. She's always been really good about that. My son, however, in utero, he was just the most laid back fella. I had to drink orange juice just to get that boy to move. And to this day, my 14-year-old son is just cool as a cucumber. Nothing affects him. But he's the one who does not like change. He's perfectly happy being in the same place at the same time all of the time. He wants to be home. He wants to be comfortable. And that has not changed. So he does not transition well. If he could stay home with us for the rest of his life, that would be cool with him. So let's look at ages and stages. So I want you to take a moment and tell me the ages of your children. What age are they now? So obviously we can't change the age of our children. Okay, so we have a 5-year-old, a 16-year-old, a 15-year-old, an 11-year-old, a 12 and a half, and a 7. Whew! All right, Amy. Okay, so we have a lot of ages, but mostly older children, not infants. So I'm going to kind of go through that section pretty quickly, but it's important that you do know some of that information as well. So babies, they're most affected by divorce and least affected at the same time. And another thing before I continue, if you have any specific questions about your child, please feel free to ask. Okay, so let's continue. Sorry about that. Just want to make sure I cover everything before the end of our webinar. So infants are the most affected and the least affected at the same time. And let me tell you why. They're most affected because they are totally dependent on their parents. They have no skills to cope with parent mood swings, or, we talked about depression or some of the other things. They are the kings and queens of nonverbal communication, tone and body language. They pick up on their environment. That is how they learn. They also learn through touch. And so if one parent is not around as much as they were, then they lose that opportunity for connection with that parent. It's not going to be the same if they were having the same type of frequent contact that they would if they lived in the same home together. So something to keep in mind. Now, does that mean that they can't have great relationships with both parents? No. That is why it's important for both parents to have frequent and consistent contact with both parents. Now, I want you to keep in mind that one of the major themes for all ages of children is to be consistent in your parenting. Parenting is really about showing love, providing discipline, which is structure, is not punishment. Discipline comes from the word disciple, to teach, and you're teaching the structure. And it's about love, discipline, structure, and being able to provide for them emotionally. I lost my train of thought there, I'm sorry. But anyway, so for infants, consistency. I'm sorry, that was the purpose of what I was saying. Consistency is key from age 0 to 18 years of age. They are looking for us to be consistent so they can trust in their environment. And when you can trust in your environment, you can grow, right? So something to keep in mind. So hold and calm baby with quiet activity. Frequent and consistent contact with both parents is important. Toddlers, birth 18 months to 3 years of age. Their primary response to divorce is fear, but it looks like anxiety. Fearfulness is heightened because they don't understand that they did not cause the divorce, and they really don't understand what is happening to them. They feel like they might have done something awful. So you might see some regression in some of the independent strides that they have made in earlier stages of their development. You might see that they have trouble sleeping. This is the age that they show separation anxiety anyway. But something to think about, is not everything is due to the divorce. But if they were having difficulty before, you might see more of a challenge. And you don't need to assume that because they don't want to go with the other parent, that the other parent is doing something that is bad. Okay, so be careful about making assumptions about what's happening in the other parent's home, because they might have difficulty transitioning, period. So the best things, again, is consistency. Keep routines the same in both households, such as their nap, their diet, their sleep patterns, their eating patterns, their, communicate about what's happening in all of the different stages. I love sending informational emails and informing both parents to do that for transition days, to keep both parents up to speed on what's happening with their child. Even for teenagers, even for your older kids, if you have information, share it. That's what good co-parenting is. It's not just about, well, they can find out themselves. If you keep the lines of communication open, that is key. Now, do you bombard them with every little thing every day? No. But once a week, once a month, just a couple of lines about what's happening, what you're noticing, what's happening with your children that might be important for the other parent, share it. Children need our verbal and physical assurance of love and protection. So if it's something that needs to be said, please say it. If you thought it, say it. And touch is the best way to communicate that we will be here for them and that we are there to take care of them. Limits and consistent follow through. Sometimes when we're feeling guilty about the choices that we have made, we sometimes stop parenting. Remember, I was discussing disciplining. We do not take the time to teach them about how things should be, then follow through, and then provide positive or negative consequences based on our children's behavior and actions. We let a lot of things slide in an effort to be the good parent. So please keep in mind that limits and consistent follow through are also part of the parenting process. Any questions on that? I know we don't have too many with that age child, that age in our class today. Okay, let's move on. When I teach the class, I have many ideas, so I just paused for a second because I had to write it down. I'm very passionate about, like I mentioned, relationships and them being healthy. So I'm always writing about them and reading about them and understanding them. It's just fascinating to me. Okay, so we have preschool children, and this is the age from 3 to 5. And their primary response to divorce is anxiety, but it looks a lot like fear, similar to toddlers. So sometimes their fear and anxiety may be expressed through aggressive behavior. You will also again see some regression in behaviors of earlier stages when things felt safer. They may have trouble sleeping, or they, because of their anxiety, they might have fear about there's something under their bed, or they don't want to sleep alone, or they don't want to go in the bathroom, or there might be a monster in the closet, or anything like that. And so that is very common for them to feel this way. So what can we do to help them? Try to avoid any unnecessary separations from either parent, grandparents, other family members. Really try to keep their lifestyle, their scheduling pretty similar. I know it can't be identical, but it can be similar. And parents' homes don't have to be identical. They just need to be still hold the same core values that you had in parenting. Does that make sense? You want to teach children healthy ways to express their feelings. You want to teach them, because you have to teach them. They're not going to know exactly how to express their feelings. Feelings are an anomaly, not an anomaly, a mystery. Feelings are a mystery to adults. They are definitely a mystery to children to be able to articulate. They have them, but how do we get it out? How do we deal with it? And that is your job as a parent, to help them through that. Teach them that they did not cause the breakup. So that's just continually reinforcing that message that they didn't. Age-appropriate books about children and divorce are also helpful, because when you externalize the problem, when you talk about Coco Bear's divorce, and when you talk about the Dinosaur's Divorce, those are two really good books, and there's many other resources out there and books for you, that when you externalize the problem, they have a better opportunity to understand what might be happening in their family. And that way, they will know what's going on without you having to make it personal to them. Does that make sense? Okay, and don't punish. Okay, so they don't want to sleep by themselves, or you might see some lapses in potty training, or they might start sucking their thumbs again. The goal is to get them to get back to where they were. The goal is not to make them feel badly and to shame them on what they're doing. The goal is to encourage them to keep up all the independent strides that they have made. So encourage age-appropriate behavior, even with the, if they pee the bed, and they won't pee the bed in college. Just remember that. Just make sure that you're not punishing them, but you keep trying to help them and find ways to work through the issues that they might have. Okay, let's talk about school-age children. So we have some school-age children here. Let's talk about them. So school-age children, ages 6 to 9, their primary response to divorce is sadness. They are feeling a lot more sad, a lot more affected by what has happened. And why? They have a great sense of sadness because of increased awareness as to the extent of the loss that they are experiencing. Children still feel responsible for the family breakup and may start to exhibit fantasies of reuniting, which is normal. I mean, they actually made movies about it. Remember the movie, The Parent Trap, when she's trying to get her parents back together? It is a very common feeling to want your parents to be back together, even if they know internally that's not going to happen. And two, it's probably not for the best. I know I felt that way. Like, I knew instinctively that that was not a good relationship between my parents. However, would it be more comfortable, more convenient for my parents to be back together, even if they're not happy? Of course. Children think about themselves. That's the beauty of being a child, right? So that is something that is very common. Give your children permission to feel their sadness. Don't try and take it away from them, and don't try and deny it. You shouldn't feel sad. Mommy and daddy still love you. Why do you feel that way? It's not, cheer up. Let them feel the feelings that they're feeling. Give them the opportunity to do so. Unless you see your children stuck in a stage of grief, let them feel their feelings and move on. Don't try and take it away from them. Don't try and fix it. Why? Because you really are just, you can't. They need to be able to feel their feelings and feel valid in doing so. And it is okay. Once people know that it's okay, they get through it so much faster. If somebody really just understands, wow, I get it. I understand. You know, Dad is not here that often. You're worried about him. You're not sure if he's eating because he didn't cook when he lived here with us. But I get it. I understand how you feel. And gosh, what a relief that is when your parents get you at a deep level, really understand. That's an awesome, awesome feeling. So give them permission to feel their feeling. And that goes from age 0 to age 18. Inform them concretely about what is happening and what is likely to occur. Do you want to give them the dirty details like, Mommy was a low-down scoundrel? No, that's not for them. That's not their place to be judged about the parents. What you want to let them know is that we cannot be married anymore. We do not get along anymore. We don't feel the same way about the marriage anymore. They need the truth, but they need age-appropriate truth without having to go through the dirty laundry, the dirty details. With school-age children, they spend a lot of time with other adults. You want to be able to communicate to those adults about what's happening. Again, refrain from the dirty details. But if you were to tell their teachers or tell a teacher about what's happening, they can be your eyes for you and your ears for you when you're not around. They can provide information that you might not get from your child directly. And that's important information. They spend a lot of time with other people besides you. So give them the opportunity to be helpful to your children the same as you would be. Provide stable school and social activities with both parents involved. With school-age children from this age on, and really even earlier, my children participated in a lot of things before they started first grade in kindergarten. Children want both parents to be a witness to their life, from soccer to recitals to the school play. They want both parents to be there, cheering them on, not a tense situation. They want both parents to be on their best behavior. They don't want to have to worry about there being any conflicts or any problems. They don't want to have to worry about communicating what's happening. They want both parents to know what's happening in their children's lives. So it is your job to provide that stable school and social environment for your children, and both parents be involved. Middle school children, this is the age that your child starts thinking very much in black and white terms. It is either right or it's wrong, except when it comes sometimes to their mistakes and their behaviors. But when it comes to their parents, wow, they can become really unforgiving, and they are paying attention to the hypocrisy that sometimes parents participate in, and they are paying attention to what parent hurt the other parent and why. So you want to be really careful about not allying with your children, not becoming their friend. Maintain good parent-child boundaries. Give your children permission to love both parents. Now, this is not a one-time conversation. This is an ongoing marketing plan, I call it, right? You are promoting and marketing the other relationship. You're not lying to them, but you're really paying attention to how your children see the other parent, how important that relationship is to them, and how important it is to have a relationship with both parents. I'm going to tell you about my personal situation again really quickly. Like I told you, that decision that I made with my parents to this day, I still feel the effects of it. But at the time that it was happening, I had a very strained relationship with my dad. My dad was very angry with me. He was hurt. I didn't realize that at the time, but all I knew was that he didn't talk to me the way that he used to. He didn't treat me the same way. And I'm like, okay, well, if he doesn't, forget him. I don't need him. I don't want him in my life, right? So that's how a child of that age thinks. I'm done. I'm good. I'm good with my cat, my bed, my Prince posters, my mom's house, my friends, my school, everything else in my life is okay. I don't really need him. But the reality is, I did. I needed him. I needed him to contribute in my life. He wasn't a perfect person. Nobody is. But he mattered. And my mom kept reminding me of that, even though he would spit nails every time my mother was in close proximity. So she would say, call your dad. You're going to see your dad. I don't want to go. You're going to spend time with your father. He is a good guy. He's a smart guy. You know, he graduated. She would tell me about all the things that he did. He was a basketball player. Your father did this and he does that. And he, whatever good things that she can say about him, she would. She would not hesitate, no matter how she felt about him. And he had negative qualities too, but she would not hesitate to pick out his positive qualities. And that's what parents do. They see what's important to their children and they point out all the beauty in it because they know that your children benefit from those things, right? It takes a spoonful of sugar to help the medicine go down. So when they are feeling those feelings like anger and hostility and fear, you want to teach them ways to handle it appropriately and help them to find outlets for their anger. That's why sports and activities and, activities with friends, all of those things are really, really important, not just, the activity of being on your iPad, even though there's a place for that. There's a place for that, especially for boy children. They get a lot out of that, but you want to limit that. So again, it's constructive how you manage your children's activities and times. Children pay a lot of attention to what's happening with other children, and they get a lot from the information that they receive from their peers. So peer therapy or discussion groups at school and counseling or church can be really helpful so that they don't feel like they are alone. They know other children go through the divorce process, but it does feel like a lonely place at times for adults as well as for the children. So let's talk about teenagers. My favorite group, because, they are just funny. They're becoming people. I mean, real people who have so many opinions, so many thoughts, but they tend to be quite cynical. They think you suck. They think the world sucks. They have a lot of opinions about their life, other people's lives, how people dress, what they look like, what the parents do and look like, just so much. But anyway, teens are also impacted. They look like adults, but they are not. You still have to co-parent. You still have to communicate with the other parent. You still have to have appropriate boundaries. You still need to make sure that this age child is not stuck in the middle of your stuff, even if they're 18, 19, 20, 21. I've had a lot of adult clients who talk about adult situations between their parents that they are privy to and they are uncomfortable with. And they're 30 and 28 and 24 and 19. Young adults have a hard time with this process as well, but parents tend to forget that, their children might not be the age of children, but they are still your children and really do not want to be stuck in the middle of the parents' situation. They want parents to take care of their business and to be able to separate peacefully and do their best to stay involved in their children's lives and continue to be a family, just not in the traditional sense of everyone living together. So with teens, you want to explain what is happening and how it will impact them, because them guessing about it is not appropriate. You want to maintain good parental role. You don't want to give them the dirty details of your dating life or what's happening with the other parent. You still, even if they are adults, you still want to maintain a good parental role. They don't need to know all of your personal business. Encourage the relationship with the other parent. Keep encouraging that. Maintain good adult privacy. Keep your rules consistent, but not overly restrictive. There still needs to be rules. There still needs to be structure, even if they're older. But if you're too restrictive, then they're going to rebel. And you want to communicate with your co-parent, especially about things that are reported by the teen. Now, let me give you a story. A presenter that used to work with us, she's another therapist, and she reported, she was working with a family, and mom called her on Monday morning. And when she answered the call, mom said, Samantha, and I'm using fictitious name, but Samantha called me on Friday. She called me from after school, and she told me that she was going over her dad's house, which is not unusual. She will call me. She wants to spend time with her dad. That's fine. I don't care. So she went to dad's house. So then, come to find out, her friends called me Sunday and told me, hey, we haven't heard from Samantha. Where is she? And I'm like, she's with her dad. And they're like, well, no, we just called Mr. Jones, let's just say. We just called Mr. Jones, and he said that Samantha's not there. So come to find out, she told dad that she was going over to mom's house on Friday. And dad felt the same way. They've had a very open door policy. Sure, go over to mom's house, no problem. Well, the problem with that is that, as you can imagine, Samantha was with neither parent, and neither parent knew where Samantha was. Come to find out, Samantha was in Utah with a boy that she met on the internet. Now, Samantha is fine. That's how we could tell this story. She is an example of what could happen. And I am so grateful that Samantha is okay. But this is what happens a lot of times with teens and parents who are going through the divorce and separation process, is that they will stop parenting. They will not communicate anymore. They just allow the children to communicate directly with their parent. And that is not okay. You want to continue to communicate. Any questions? Any questions? Let's take a moment for any questions. I also want to give you your second code word. Let me know when you've received it. Please let me know in the chat box that you got your second code word. Let me know that you have the word. Put parenting in the chat box. Just waiting to hear from one more. Okay, perfect. All right, so conflict, again, I'm going to just reiterate, conflict is the single most powerful cause of stress and maladjustment in children. It is not the divorce itself, but continuing conflict between the parents before, during, and after the divorce. That is really important that we know. So let's talk about co-parenting. Let's talk about what this is that we're trying to promote in this class. What are the things that we're really trying to promote? Let's talk about co-parenting. Any questions on co-parenting? Okay, so what is co-parenting? I can't tell you how many parents have said to me, Keisha, if I knew how to co-parent, if I knew how to deal with my other parent, we would still be married, right? And that might be the case. Well, co-parenting is very different. Divorce is taking the emotionality out of your relationship. That's when you've healed. Like I mentioned, acceptance is like a breath of fresh air. You feel like I can be in the same room with this person and they do not have the same impact that they had on me. I can move through life and talk to them and deal with them, not every day, not all day, but it's okay. They do not control my emotions. I am in control over my emotions. That's what healing is, right? And co-parenting means that I have realigned because I have a purpose. My purpose is to raise my children well. And I'm raising them with my co-parent, my partner in parenting. And I don't have to do this all alone. That's the beauty of co-parenting. Like we can share in the responsibility of raising these beautiful children the way that we envisioned for them when we got together. when we decided to have a family together. So divorce is a family change, not an end. The marriage ends, but the family continues. And when I mean by family, it is that structure, that stability, that support, the love, the connection, the importance of raising them well, good education, all the hopes and dreams we had for their lives. That's what family is about. So co-parenting is lifelong, God willing, right? Because we want to see all the beautiful things that our children are going to experience and what they are experiencing when they're graduating and when they have recitals and when they get married and when you have children, when they have children and you are grandparents. Gosh, you want to be a part of that. And the truth is, after the age of 18, your children get to decide. So if parents do not behave well, then they will not be able to be a part of their children's lives because the children get to choose. I just noticed that it looks like we have somebody else viewing our class, and I'm not sure who that might be. Huh. Okay. Interesting. Okay, so let's keep moving. Co-parenting is about ongoing communication and decision-making about your children's needs and interests. It's coming to terms with sharing both time with your children and responsibility. Both parents need to spend time, but most importantly, both parents need to share responsibility. Children feel connected when parents are responsible. Co-parenting is not about you. It's not about getting your needs met. It's about focusing on your children's needs. It's not about rehashing issues from the marriage and or breakup. It's not about going back to husband and wife roles. And it's not about getting together with your former spouse. It is about sharing in the parenting. All of these other issues really need to be taken care of individually or in counseling. You need to be able to separate the different roles. You are now in new roles. It's, again, about divorcing and realigning as parents. I want to show you a video of a co-parenting situation. And I can't tell you how many people say, this is unrealistic. I have a really close friend whose parents were just like this. So it's possible. So I know it's possible. However, it's not necessary for it to be this way. But I just want you to see one view of what parents have done. And there might be some nugget in there that you can utilize. So let's take a look at Bonnie and Ross.
Ross and I got married. I was 18, he was 19. And we bought our first house, got married, had our son all within the first year of being married.
We were really young when we got married, and we didn't really know who we were as individuals.
It was a lot. It was very stressful on both of us, and we realized quickly that we weren't ready to be married, and we had to focus more on our roles as parents before we could as husband and wife. We were just too young.
For the longest time, I wasn't okay with it. I wasn't willing to go through with the divorce, and I was really trying to fight it.
We separated. It wasn't pretty most days. Again, we were right fighters. We both wanted to be right. We both wanted to outdo one another.
My parents never divorced. I wasn't raised in that environment, and I just didn't know how to handle it. I never knew divorce. I'd only heard about it from friends at school.
It was hard for a while. We struggled to be together. Sometimes it was very awkward.
When the divorce had started, I remember there was a lot of arguing.
It was difficult. We had a lot of conflict during our divorce. We did go see a parenting coordinator who did help us out a lot. But one incident that stands out was when Cody was about 2 years old, and he asked me one night when I was putting him to bed if I loved his dad. And I said, well, of course I love your dad. He gave me you. And about a week later, Ross had said the same thing. He said, Cody asked if I loved you. And I asked him what he said, and he said, well, of course I love your mom. She gave me you. And Cody had said the same thing to both of us. That makes me so happy. And we had a moment when we talked about that. We realized that we needed to stop all the conflict and just focus on being a family for Cody. Well, Ross and I come from very different families. My parents have been divorced almost my whole life, and Ross's parents have been together for over 30 years. But all of our parents made it a big deal to not argue in front of us. Both my parents never argued after they got divorced, and Ross's parents never argued in front of their kids either. And we agreed that we both wanted to be like that for Cody. So anytime we do have an issue, we handle it privately, on the phone, away from Cody. We definitely don't want any of our issues to be in front of Cody or Cody to worry about them.
It took some time, but I eventually accepted what was going on and started focusing on rather myself and the way I felt. I started focusing on what really mattered, and that was Cody.
So I know that to be a good mom, I need Ross in my son's life. And I know that Ross, to be a good dad, needs me to help support his relationship with his son.
It took some getting used to. It took a lot of time, but I think we're doing okay.
When we do our pickups and our drop-offs, Sundays are my favorite days because Ross will drop Cody off and we'll watch the football game together. Or I'll go pick up Cody at Ross's parents' house and I'll watch the game with his family. It's a very big deal.
It's all just about Cody, so there's really nothing more important than that, and that's what I've been doing my best to focus on through any potential drama along the way. It's like, there's a greater reason. There's something else involved here, and way more important.
Sometimes it's just the three of us and we get to spend a little family time together doing something that we all enjoy. And I very much enjoy the time I spend with Ross and Cody. And you look at the benefits of divorce. You don't get along when you're married. There's no reason you don't have to get along as co-parents. You get divorced to make things better. You don't get divorced and then you keep having things go wrong, and you keep fueling the fire of the drama. You just got to let it go and be parents and focus on your child. Just seeing Cody grow older and seeing just the little influences that I've had on his life, and it's just amazing, and it impacts me in a way that I can't even describe. When I think about Ross today, I know that he is the biggest influence in Cody's life, and Cody needs his dad, and as his mom, I'm supposed to give him everything that he needs. So I support him having a good relationship with Ross, and Ross is a really good father. He loves his son, and they're best friends, and to see them together, it really is special. They do have a very special bond. It wouldn't even be my weekend, and I'd just stop by, have dinner, hang out, watch a movie. I mean, being able to do that was awesome, but my friends were taken back by it at first. They were kind of like, whoa, what's going on with you two? You getting back together, this and that. Some people find it strange. They think, well, if you get along so well, why aren't you guys together? And it's like, well, that's the thing. We didn't get along when we were together, but we get along so much better now as co-parents, and we enjoy each other more. And we're actually friends. I need Ross in my life to raise my son, and I don't care what anyone else thinks.
Yeah, they're getting used to it now. I mean, they're really happy for us, and the fact that we've been able to, go through the divorce and, maintain a friendship. They recognize that the typical family, separated family, doesn't work this way. But it really is the best.
There are other people who admire us, and I have some adult friends whose parents are divorced, and their parents still have conflict. And my friend has a child, and her son's birthday party was very awkward because her parents are divorced and still making it an issue. They've been divorced for over 20 years. And I just can't imagine living life like that.
I want my son to be raised right and to not have to go through that in his childhood, and to be a better person than me. It's always for life, with children.
The best advice we got was to pick our battles, and also to keep our conflict just to each other, not to involve our parents, our friends, and definitely not involve Cody in it. The worst advice we got was from my first lawyer. The worst advice I got was from my first lawyer, who wanted me to get a restraining order against Ross and his family. I immediately thought, well, that's not what I want. I don't want to cut him out of my life. I just don't want the conflict. And I think it's very important for people going through divorce conflict to see a parenting coordinator or a mediator and not rely so much on your attorneys, who can sometimes make things worse.
The best gift I can give my son now is a good relationship as co-parents. That is by far the best thing.
If I could say one thing to parents who are going through a divorce, it would be definitely to remember your children and remember that they're hearing and they're seeing everything and they're absorbing it. That will affect them for the rest of their lives. And they only have one childhood. It's yours to make it a good one.
So what do you think? What do you think about Bonnie and Ross? So what do you think of Bonnie and Ross, guys? Anna, Amy, Noe. What do you think of Bonnie and Ross? What do you think of this co-parenting relationship? Okay, some good points. Tried to do it, but it didn't work. I want you guys to always remember that you could keep trying. It doesn't, in 5 years, always remember that everybody's going through their grieving process, and sometimes it does not work initially, but if you keep doing your best co-parenting, whatever that looks like for you, everything matters. All your efforts matter. So keep trying. It doesn't have to be perfection by any stretch, But every time that you can keep working on it, so good. So here are some guidelines for keeping children out of the middle. Keep your children out of the unhealthy roles of messenger, judge, confidant, and reporters. And I want to just illustrate a little bit what that looks like. Any questions also while I get this information for you? Okay, so a messenger is when you use children to communicate with your former spouse or using children to transport items such as the child support checks. Not okay. Judge is when you're using children to validate who is the good guy and who is the bad guy by giving them information that is not appropriate for them. The positive images children hold about each parent individually should not be damaged by their other parent. Okay? Confidant. Using children as a supportive friend who will listen and give you encouragement. So children are not our friends. My mom used to always say that to me, and I used to always think that was so mean. She's like, I got friends. You need friends. I have friends. We're not friends. I am your mother. And she used to say it just like that. I am your mother. And now I understand. I get it. Because how can you parent your friend? I don't know about you guys, but my best, closest girlfriends, we can give each other advice, but they surely do not want me to tell them what to do. And as a parent, you still have to, you still have to tell them about themselves. You still have to get them on their way to do the best that they can possibly do. And if you are their friend, they don't want to hear from you in that capacity. I'll put it that way. So here are some things that are really helpful. If you hear something from your children, or you hear through the grapevine, or there's something that you want to inform the other parent about, go to them directly. Go directly to the other parent for information. Don't badmouth the other parent. Don't participate in your children's angry feelings about the other parent. Encourage them to work on their relationship with their other parent. Do not ask the children to tell you about what's happening in the other parent's life. And do not ask children to keep secrets. That's not okay. You don't want them to keep secrets from you. They should not be keeping secrets from the other parent. So let's take a look at this video. This is a short one.
I'm with Ann Shelley from the Transparenting Program. Ann and others in the Transparenting Program send people to the Upper Parents website before the classes to try to get everybody as much exposure to these new ideas as possible. One of those ideas is the Child Safety Zone, and I know you talk about this in your class. I wonder if you could share that with our viewers here.
Absolutely. This is one of my favorite parts of the Up to Parents website because it's simple, it's direct, and it's very humbling. Basically, the concept goes like this. From a child's perspective, they are saying to their parents, There's 10,000 minutes in a week. If I give you 9,996 minutes to do whatever you want, you can fight, I wish you wouldn't, you can call each other names, I hope you don't, but can I have 4 minutes of peaceful cooperation where I see the two of you treat each other as nicely as you do the person that delivered the pizza on Friday night? Can I have that? When you present it to parents like that, it's very difficult to not be humbled for a few minutes and realize that we're really not asking too much of one another. Sometimes parents get confused when we talk about co-parenting and being cooperative with one another. They think they have to become friends. It's about being friends to the child's relationship with the other parent and protecting that experience when they do see the two of you together. We just want it to be peaceful. That's it.
And of course, the 4 minutes we're referring to there are the 4 minutes when the kids see the parents together during pickups and drop-offs or any other times. And the kids are just saying, or we're putting the words in the kids' mouths, could I just have those 4 minutes? You've got all this other time. And when you think about that, what excuse is there ever for parents to fight or even bring up a difficult topic in those 4 minutes? They've got the other 9,996 minutes to do so. Remember that these are precious times. These are an opportunity to show kids we're getting healthier. We're going to be courteous. Yes, these are difficult times, but you come from strong people, a mom and dad, who care about you, and we're going to make sure there's safe sanctuary anytime that we're together. You don't need to be one of the kids who worries about what's going to happen next time your parents are together. Your parents are going to do extremely well.
Absolutely.
A final word, Ann?
If we can give that gift to our children, we've given them a tremendous amount.
Thanks so much.
All right, so the child safety zone is always an important thing to remember. But let's talk about changing the relationship, because that's really what needs to happen in a co-parenting relationship. We want to go from a high investment and high intensity relationship to a low investment and low intensity relationship. And that's how we look at business relationships. It's usually low intensity, low investment in the relating things. We have a common purpose, and that is, if we're in a business, is to make money, right? We need to get our product out. We need to figure out how to make it work from A to Z. And the same thing happens in a co-parenting relationship. It's very direct. The communication is direct. The information that's shared is direct. The expectations are different. The hostility is low because we have a purpose. If you're constantly arguing with your business partner, do you think you can stay in business? No. And so the same thing applies to co-parenting. If there is a breakdown in co-parenting, who loses? Who will lose out in that situation? And that is our children. So you're going from an intimate relationship to a business-like relationship. And a lot of folks would love to stay in a friendship. And that's just not feasible. And even in that Bonnie and Ross situation, what you notice is that they got to a certain place where they made the decision to do things differently, right? They made the decision to change how they were functioning. And they were able to work their way back into a friendship. And that's what I suggest. There is a lot of intimacy, if you think about it, a lot of closeness, not sexual intimacy, but closeness that's still in a friendship. You confide in one another, you talk about your days, there's a lot of laughing and joking and good times, you spend time together. That's what friendship is about. Business is purely about being cordial, working together, and it's very different. So business relationship defined is there are no assumptions, there are formal courtesies. It's okay to say hello, good morning, you can make eye contact. You know, you do that with strangers. You could do that with your other parent. Little confrontation. It's not your job to fix the other person and to tell them about themselves at every opportunity that you have. Little confrontation, low risk, low emotional intensity. High personal privacy. You do not give all your information to the other person. It's none of their business. Low personal disclosure. What if my co-parent does not co-parent? What do you think? I'm asking you guys, the three of you, if you can tell me what you think right now. What if your co-parent does not co-parent? What if my co-parent is not involved? What do you think you should do? Okay, I'm waiting to hear back from you guys so I can move on. What if your co-parent does not co-parent? And what if my co-parent is not involved? No response. Where is everybody? Are you still there? Are you still in the room? Still listening? Okay. Whew. You're still there. Okay. Try to encourage the other parent. Yes, keep doing your best co-parenting. So the encouragement is not necessarily direct. And what I mean by that is that you encourage them by giving information, by being open, by sharing, by being flexible. Those are the things that encourage the other parent to trust that you want to maintain the relationship, that you are respectful of their relationship with their kids. And that keeps people involved, invested, and wanting to work with you. And that's how we do it. If they're not involved, you never know what a parent can contribute to a child's life. And you will never know. Sometimes it is just one word. It is one sentence. It's one look. It's one touch that can contribute and change the trajectory of your children's lives. That is why that when adoptees are never met their parents, but want to meet them, and they do meet them and they contribute in a great way, even if it's at an adult age. Why? And it's something we have no control over and we don't understand. We've given them everything. We're there for them. This is all they've known. But there's still a human need to connect with the people that they are biologically attached to. Sometimes it happens. Sometimes they're able to do that. Sometimes they can't. Nevertheless, if it's safe, and there are situations wherein it is not safe, and in those cases, those are different. But I'm speaking to the norm. If there's an opportunity and the door is open and the children can have a relationship in some way, then that's the best co-parenting we can do. Amy, do you think that you guys, maybe, it might be a delay on me even seeing your responses. You might be right about that. So here are some tips about helping co-parenting go smoothly. Make parenting time arrangements developmentally appropriate. What's going to be appropriate for a 5-year-old is not going to be appropriate for a 16-year-old. More time sharing is usually better than less time sharing. Greater distance requires greater effort. So the parent who's at a distance, it's up to both parents. It's up to both parents to really put in a lot more effort into the co-parenting relationship and the parental relationship. Be flexible about timeshare arrangements. Encourage spending time with grandparents and extended family. Make sure your children have their own photos in your home, of their time with both of you. Make sure that they have a space. Instead of ripping I tell you, I've heard a lot of ceremonies to end the relationship. And one of the biggest ceremonies, and I'm sure you've heard it before, is, you throw everything away that belonged to the two of you, or you throw away their pictures, or you slice their pictures in half. But gosh, children really love to see that they were made out of love. And if they can see the good times between the parents, that really matters and makes a difference for them. So save all of those things for your children to have and be able to put in their rooms and be able to celebrate their parents in the way that they want to celebrate them. And even if you don't like seeing them, let them have their own space with that. Again, spend individual time with each of your children. After divorce or separation, children are herded like cattle. When you live together, they had the opportunity. If daddy was home and mommy was going to the grocery store, Suzanne was able to jump in the car without anyone else coming and spend time with mom alone. Suzanne might not have that opportunity anymore because, it's just not the same. So if you guys can create that for them, that's awesome. And be on time really just means if you say it, do it. Does that make sense? If you say it, make sure that you do everything that you promise. Don't make any promises that you can't keep. So here's our segment about the legal system. Involvement with the legal system, and I'm going to keep this short and sweet to emphasize what your involvement in the legal system should be. You want to use the legal system for these 3 reasons: to the division of property, custody arrangements, and child support. The legal system works best when you keep your emotions in check. You try to stay out of court as much as possible. You know your laws, and you can separate your decisions about your children from those about property and finances. You do not use the legal system to punish an ex-spouse, to get even, to prove who is right or wrong, to show your children who really loves them, or to maintain control over an ex-spouse, or to get something from an ex-spouse that you didn't get in the marriage. You want to seek good legal counsel, those who specialize in domestic or family law. An effective family law attorney is going to know the laws of this state. They're going to be able to suggest creative ways to evaluate your assets and all of the things that are happening in your particular situation. And they can separate the legal issues from the emotional issues. And that is really a red flag. If your attorney is more invested emotionally in the situation than you are, then maybe you need to take a look at what's happening with that attorney. They should not be more invested emotionally than you. And they should be able to make sure that you're doing things that are in the best interest of everybody. Alternatives to litigation is mediation, cooperative law, paralegal services, and the Self-Help Center. I want you to see a video on understanding divorce mediation. Divorce mediation is a court-approved alternative to divorce litigation. It is a private and confidential process through which a separating couple, assisted by a trained, experienced mediator, can arrive at their own decisions concerning what is fair and reasonable for their particular family situation. When a couple is in the process of divorce, They need to make important decisions about, among other things, future parenting arrangements, child support, property distribution, and spousal maintenance. Mediation is flexible and confidential. It gives you and your spouse a way to settle the conflict between you, which is natural and inevitable, in a way that helps you to work together as parents after your divorce. Many divorcing couples wage a long and costly battle through attorneys. When it's finally over, they feel exhausted and embittered, and the children feel hurt and confused. A divorce can be mediated. It can be a settlement negotiated by the couple themselves. The couple, not lawyers in courts, can control the process. A mediated agreement usually costs less and takes less time because the parties do the negotiating, not the lawyers. The mediator is impartial, which means that they remain neutral between the husband and the wife, and they can't give advice to either party, and also can't act as a lawyer for either party. Mediation is voluntary. It continues only for so long as all three of you, your spouse, and the mediator, want it to. A skilled mediator helps to create an atmosphere in which the participants can communicate more effectively and better understand both their own and the other's point of view. In Nevada, we are very lucky to have court-sponsored mediation available to us. Family Mediation Center is located at 601 North Pecos Road on the corner of Bonanza in the Family Court and Services Building. If you have minor children and you and your spouse have a dispute over custody or time sharing, you will be automatically referred to the Family Mediation Center. Usually the only issue addressed in court-sponsored mediation are issues involving the children, child custody, and time sharing. The purpose is to help the parents to develop a time-sharing plan and to decide about other custody issues. The Mediation Center allows you to meet with the mediator for up to 5 sessions in 2-hour increments. Family Mediation Center provides the following types of mediation services. Mandatory mediation, which is like we discussed before when there are child custody disputes. Access visitation mediation, and that is when parties are involved in paternity or child support matters before the court. Marathon mediation, if you or your co-parent live in a different state or possibly country. Remediation, when parties need to remediate their current parenting arrangement. Telephone mediation, when one party resides out of state, arrangements are made for the out-of-state party to be present by telephone for these mediation sessions. Partial parenting agreements are completed when parties may not have resolved all of their issues in the mediation process. Shuttle mediation is there for when there has been a domestic violence and abuse situation. The services are confidential and cost-effective. Family Mediation Center provides mediation services on a sliding scale based upon each parent's individual annual gross income. For more information, please call 455-4186. In private mediation, you can address and negotiate all of your divorce issues, including child custody, visitation, support concerns, how to divide your property, or tax consequences. Private mediation is a viable alternative to using an attorney. Choosing mediation does not mean forsaking lawyers. Many participants consult their attorneys after they have negotiated an agreement to ensure that they have the best agreement and that they don't leave the process frustrated and angry. There are times when the dynamics between divorcing spouses reflect a balance of power so skewed that mediation is inappropriate. Mediation requires not only the capacity to agree, but the capacity to disagree. The judges support and encourage mediation because planning your children's present and future should be in the parent's hands. right. So economics, what are some ways to handle economic changes? Avoid going into debt or deeper into debt, or to support a pre-divorce lifestyle, or to buy things for children in an attempt to make up for other losses. We do that quite a bit. I've been guilty of that myself. We've become the mall mom or the Disneyland dad, and really the currency that children want are our time. And sometimes we overspend. I'm guilty of that too. It's called retail therapy. Just make sure that you're just really smart with your money as much as possible, because this is a hard time economically. Child support is there to maintain as much as possible a child's previous standard of living. That is the reason it was put into place. It was meant to minimize children's additional social and emotional adjustment. Child support is not payment for parenting time rights. It is illegal to withhold children from spending time with their parents because of unpaid child support. And child support is not spousal support. Why is it important so we're going to just segue into another area that is really important before we end for today. Why is it important to have relationships with family and friends, or new relationships with family and friends? Why do you think it's important? Why do you think? Why do you think it's important, and why? Well, I'll let you answer, but I'm going to continue because we are running out of time. But I would love to hear from you. Why do you think it's important? You know, the best way to feed our souls, and we said to take care of ourselves before, is to connect with people. We were meant to connect with people. And sometimes we don't take the time for those connections. We're just so busy. You know, we're moving through life at such a fast pace these days that it is so important to stay connected to the people that matter to us. So really try and keep this in mind as you're taking care of yourself. So let's talk about this whole situation, this period of adjustment in as a whole. We were single, then we became a couple, and then we separated. And in the couple, we overlapped. There's that piece that's in the middle, that's our relationship, correct? And then we separated, and we're no longer a couple. And that piece that was there is missing. It's not there any longer. And we can feel that. It's palpable. It's a feeling that we have internally. And you can call it grieving, you could call it whatever, but it is something that has changed in our lives, and we can feel it. The goal is to regain a sense of wholeness again, and that is part of the healing process, to become whole again. Will we be the people that we were as single individuals? No, we can't be. It's impossible. We can't go back. We can only move forward, and we only have this moment. So we have to keep working on regaining that sense of wholeness. But what happens quite frequently is that we don't like that feeling that's going on internally. And so what do? We fill it. And we fill it with another person. Usually we get into a new relationship in 6 months to a year after the separation or divorce. And the problem is when we get into a new relationship and we have not become whole again, chances are we can be remarrying the same person that we just got out of a relationship with. We haven't become a whole. We haven't figured out what we wanted. It's just not always the best situation. So first marriages in the United States, we know, end 50% of the time. Do you know what the percentage is for second marriages? It's about 70 to 75%. And third marriages is 80%. Why do you think the remarriage statistic is so low? It's so depressing, it's kinda. But the reason is because we typically get married to the person we just divorced. We haven't healed. We haven't taken the time to be in the moment and to savor. We just jump right back into a new relationship. So the danger of entering into a new relationship too soon, even though they look good, they might smell good, they're ready to go and start their new lives. Well, this lady has diseases. If you look at her baggage, she has diseases and money problems and bad habits and stuff and emotions. And he has pain and hurts and parents and secrets and a skeleton if you look in his childhood. Lots of issues. And the biggest problem with all of that is that we ask our children to trust our decisions. And they trust that we're going to choose people that they can care about forever. But then if the marriage ends or the relationships end and we keep introducing them to new people, what happens? Children attach very easily. And then once you've decided, oh, this is not a good match, they have to go through the grieving process over and over again. So dating is a beautiful thing. Get to know people, figure them out. But first and foremost, give yourself time to heal. If you have a good supportive network, they can be your buffer. They can be the people who take you out and do things with you so that you don't feel the need to rush or to jump into a new relationship. And don't expose your children to people you are casually dating. You really need to know for sure that they're going to be a part of your life for a long period of time. And maintain good parent-child boundaries. Again, they don't have to know all about your dating world. So in summary, you're going through a divorce or separation, and you're taking the emotionality out of the relationship, right? You're going to realign as co-parents. You're going to minimize the negative influences that your children are going to be exposed to. You're going to use a business relationship as a model. You're going to clarify your boundaries with your children, with yourself, and with your co-parent. And you're going to be dedicated to the future. And with that, I'd like to say thank you. Thank you for being with me for this time. You're going to get a confidential survey and quiz by email in 2 minutes. Please complete all of the questions. We cannot give you a certificate unless everything is done. Please answer all of the questions. Please let us know who referred you to our seminar. If you have any burning questions, you still have an opportunity to let us know. Please hand in your survey and you will receive the certificate by mail in 24 hours. And with that, I'd like to say thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And I am going to stay on the line. I'm going to send that information to you right now. So give me a moment. Okay, everyone. Did you get everything in the email? Did you get the email? I would like to thank everybody for being here today and participating. Great. I'm glad that you got it. Wonderful. Any other questions for me? Oh, you're right. Third word. I'm so sorry. Oops. So sorry.